Okay, Shafiq here. Another video in the series of living with a mental health condition and most importantly, how I overcame it. For those of you that watch this the first time, there are previous videos, so I thank you, or I would appreciate it in some way, shape or form if you go back, because then you'll get an understanding of who I am. Just a very short synopsis about me. My name is Shafiq Villasanti. I'm a confidence empowerment coach, I guess blogger, public speaker and author and coach. And I guess I'm the author of this book, There's No Shame. This book is my story of how I overcame a particularly difficult three-year period of my life after attempting to take my life for the second time in 2016. And for reasons of YouTube, there's particular words in here that I can write, but I can't speak out on I guess on audio, because it will be flagged up. But most importantly, I am passionate about breaking down the stigmas and the taboos and the prejudices associated with having a mental health condition. And as I always say, we all have mental health conditions. We talk about the 1 in 4 who suffer with depression, but we all have good and bad mental health, don't we? So having a mental health condition is not necessarily a poor mental health condition. Good mental health is, as I speak to you today, about England beating, who did we beat? Let's get this right. Oh Christ, this is one for you because I'm doing this live. Oh, it's been a long day. England beat Australia, wasn't it? England beat Australia in the Rugby World Cup. And so obviously we have good mental health. And unfortunately, Ireland lost to New Zealand in the quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup. So I guess they are suffering from poor mental health because they're on a bit of a low. I mean, that's how simple it is. So let's not get caught up with the whole, or if you've got poor mental health, you're obviously crazy or untrustworthy, because that's not how it is. And ultimately, when people do attempt to end their lives through that word that begins with S, the S is just a label. It's the poor mental health that ultimately takes us to that decision. And I can talk about it because I've tried it twice. So we all have the ability, most importantly, to influence our mental health. So today I'm talking about living with it day to day. Now I guess I lived with it for 10 years between 2006 and 2016, where I in a nutshell, I don't think I dealt with it. The first attempt wasn't dealt with. It was brushed under the carpet. It was like a skeleton in the closet, shall we say. And it was always there. Now I'd have some great months. I'd probably have some good years, but I always felt I was stigmatized with that. Now no one really knew about it apart from my wife and my best friend and my mum and dad. But for me personally, because it wasn't out there in the public domain, and because it's social media wise, and it was in its infancy in 2006, it wasn't talked about, was it? It was like taboo. It's like, how on earth can this guy who throws weights about, who's got a good career, got a beautiful wife, got a beautiful family, possibly suffer with a mental health condition, or try to have done what he did in 2006. So I was always living with it. So I guess, law of averages would say in 2016, where big promotion, lots of hours, we're talking about 18-hour days, sort of 85-hour weeks kind of thing. Ultimately, it reared its head again, shall we say, and I did what I did for the second time. And again, it failed. I mean, as I always said before, the commitment was 100%. I saw it through, but it clearly it failed for the greater good for me to do what I do day to day. So day-to-day living, when I first was diagnosed with, as I said, with chronic anxiety and depression, which obviously led to my attempts on my life. I felt in myself that I was a failure. I felt in myself that I wasn't marrying up to what I should be perceived as a man, as a husband, as a father, as somebody with a good career. I felt pretty much, and this is very peculiar, this was a big thing for me, I felt very, very uncomfortable in myself. I felt very, very uncomfortable in social situations. I mean, for somebody who was out the door at sort of 5 o'clock in the morning and back at 10 o'clock at night, I was never around. Even the car being on the driveway or outside the house, I was conscious of that. I was conscious of what neighbours thought. All of a sudden now Shafiq was there. I was conscious of the fact that on the school run, all of a sudden, there was this dad. You know, social situations, harvest festivals, Christmas masses, parents' evenings, all that sort of stuff. All of a sudden you were there, and living with that day to day was very, very challenging for me, because I guess that paranoia in me felt like there must be a reason for it, because I didn't tell anybody. I hadn't told anybody I had ultimately lost my job. I'd lost my job through my mental health condition. It was something I was ashamed of, something that I wanted to keep away from everybody. So for a long time, as we talk about living with it day to day, I said for, oh Christ, it must have been about 14 months that I was working remotely from home to keep up this pretense that everything was all well and good with me. I mean, that's not a recipe for somebody dealing with it. That's a recipe for somebody running and hiding away from it. But what I understand now is that whilst I was living this lie, I was taking medication, I was seeing psychiatrists, I was going to all the self-help groups, I was, going to the GPs and all that sort of, so on and so forth, that it was my way of dealing with it. And I had the support, thankfully, of my wife, and I only spoke to my mum and dad about it. They were the only people in the world that knew. And that time was challenging, but most importantly, it was a way of me getting to understand day to day of how every day was a little bit closer to me becoming, in myself, happy and content. Because living day to day, when you're on medication, for me, I won't talk about medication because I can't really mention it on camera, but I took antidepressants, I took mood stabilizers. The one I did take gave me a particularly dicky tummy, and it was horrible. I really felt like I just felt horrible taking it. I guess it's getting used to it, and ultimately, even though those side effects for the first few months were tough, it did create a balance in me. I suffered from noticeable joint ache, which was very peculiar in my wrists, in my knees, in my ankles, in my fingers, that metallic metal taste in my mouth, but also the insomnia. As much as it makes you feel, these pills make you feel so tired during the day, and you feel so useless, and living with that, you felt bloody useless, falling asleep all the time. When it got to night time, I couldn't switch off. My brain was just racing. So I had to take some other pills, a particular pill that begins with an M. Sounds like marzipan, but it's not. And that would knock me out, and I'd be affected the next day by feeling so tired. Little things like if you take prescription medication, you have to tell your car insurer that you're on prescription medication, because some of them won't allow you to drive vehicles with it. So day-to-day living with it was quite challenging. The anxiety in public situations was all to see. But most importantly, living with it day to day, I realised now, was the fact that I was dealing with it, was the fact that I had acknowledged something in my life and I was taking it head on. And I wasn't running away from it, I was dealing with it. And that's really important. I was living with it day to day because I wasn't running away from it. I was dealing with it and I was taking it head on. And anybody out there, and that includes your good selves there, can do this. And I had the support of an amazing wife, and I still have the support of an amazing wife. And my children didn't know anything about my situation. I mean, let's be honest, they were happy that Daddy was there in the morning and at night. My relationship with my children was on FaceTime, putting them to bed on the phone, stuck in traffic, so on and so forth. So it's a journey. It's one that you will all go through, be it if you're the partner or the relative of somebody going through it, or if you're going through it yourself. But you will come outside the other end, as I have, most importantly. And I hope this serves to inspire and create confidence in you that maybe was floundering. So as I say, as well as wrap up, you could please like, please share, please subscribe. The algorithms on YouTube will only get this out to more and more people the more interaction there is with your good selves. So please put this with other people. It means an awful lot to me, because ultimately we're spreading the word, we're getting those messages across, we're getting a positive take on mental health, and not just a negative title grabbing headlines that media all loves. So I look forward to catching up with a new video. Have a great day and catch up with you soon. Cheers, bye.